We will begin with the question of how do we define CRT, and we'll begin with Dr. Irizarry.
Okay, so CRT, what it is, I promise this won't be my graduate race course. There's no, no syllabus or books to read today, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what CRT is so you have a better understanding of what it isn't. So CRT, critical race theory, at its core and its origins, emerges out of legal studies and has its foundation in critical legal studies. Authors and scholars in CRT include, to begin with, Derek Bell. And it's interesting, he's written works like Faces at the Bottom of the Well, Brown v. Board of Education and Interest Convergence Dilemma, and Who's Afraid of Critical Race Theory. CRT is actually really good at not only looking at race from a legal perspective, policy perspective, but also predicting what is likely to occur as a result of what they look at. So to give you a sense, this is at its core, an actually very narrow kind of field in legal studies. It includes the work of Richard Delgado, Kimberly Crenshaw, Cheryl Harris. These are legal scholars who over the past 40 plus years, and including more recent work by scholars such as Ian Haney Lopez, have written on the law and race. Now, this is what critical race theory, or at least where it emerges from. Critical race theory, within that kind of space of what it is, has 4 tenets, some key tenets. First, a recognition that race is not biological, but socially constructed and socially significant. So that's the first one. The second one is an acknowledgement that racism is a normal feature in society, and it's embedded within our systems and within our institutions. And institutions is not just organizations, but institutions such as like the institution of marriage, religion, and then also systems, the criminal justice system, right? So seeing that it is a normal feature, it's embedded within these systems. A rejection of popular understandings of racism that confines racism to a few bad apples. So you've heard that a lot, right? Like we have to deal with the few bad apples. Recognizing that racism is codified in the law and embedded in structures, it's woven into public policy. And then a recognition of relevance of people's everyday lives to scholarship. So one of the important parts of critical race theory is the importance of your everyday life, the average Texan's everyday life, in informing how we understand the world as scholars when we study race. Now, that's critical race theory and legal studies, and actually it's very broad. I'm not gonna give a lesson, but just to begin there. That is critical race theory. This is a work that most people would not engage until they're either studying for a law degree or a graduate degree. These are not the kinds of things that you would discuss in 5th grade or in high school or as a sophomore. These are things that my graduate students find it difficult to grapple with, and that scholars sit down and grapple with. They're very difficult concepts, and they're very theoretical, and they're really trying to think about and better understand these systems and how they work through the lens of law. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only way we look at race or the only lens that we use to look at race. There are what we now kind of have come to understand as critical theories of race. So not CRT, the kind of core legal studies critical race theory, but a much broader literature on racial theory coming from all over academia, from all different types of disciplines. So I try to put together a whole list, and it's so long that I will spare you having to sit through the entire list, but I think you will be surprised when you know how long ago people were studying these things, for how long, and in what areas. So for example, Work on critical theories of race were being published in the 1800s by critical anthropologists. So for example, Antenor Furman published his work on the equality of human races in 1885 in Haiti. Anna Julia Cooper published A Voice from the South by a Black woman of the South. There is work going from the 1800s into the 1900s. Du Bois wrote on souls of Black folk, Black Reconstruction, and then people are writing in a number of different fields. So it's really interesting how people are looking at race from a number of different perspectives. So Antenor Furman was writing on critical anthropology in 1885. Robert Sussman was writing in critical anthropology in 2014. Tukufu Zuberi writes from sociology looking at racial statistics. So does Joseph Graves, who's an evolutionary biologist. In Black political thought, not only W.E. Du Bois writing about the souls of Black folk, Black Reconstruction, but Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth in 61, James Baldwin, Cedric Robinson writing on Black Marxism, which recently kind of re-emerged and people are giving more attention to. Looking at the Black radical tradition. We have critical philosophers such as Charles Mills writing The Racial Contract. Sociologists writing about racial formation and colorblind racism in the United States. Also writing about racialized organizations. We have Black feminist scholars, starting with Anna Julia Cooper, A Voice from the South, but then a long lineage of scholars. Kimberly Crenshaw, Audre Lorde, Patricia Hill Collins, Tressie McMillan Cotton, in different fields. Even as recently as Chanda Prescott Weinstein, who's an astrophysicist, writing Black feminist work in astrophysics. And just to make sure I've got some of this here, we've got work looking at the body, at health, at racism. Coming from health and policy, coming from the physical sciences, coming from the social sciences, coming from area studies, and everywhere in between, psychology, medicine. Starting as far back as 150 years ago. So when we talk about critical theories of race, we're talking about a huge body of literature. I barely touch the surface. I give my students, when they get the syllabus, they also get a list of all like the books and things I can find related to particular topics. My syllabus is probably about, at this point, it's gotta be, I think, 20-something pages, if not more, because the lists for each section are so long, with readings going back 100+ years through the present on all of these different topics. Now, pretty much all of this work is engaging at the depth of upper undergraduate or graduate level engagement with critical theories of race. So when people say CRT, they're not talking about critical theories of race. They're not talking about critical legal studies. They're not talking about the area I'm in, Quant Crit, which looks at race and quantitative methods. They're talking about something different. They're not talking about these things. But that doesn't mean that they're not talking about something. And so we need to make sure that we know what they are talking about and what that might mean. And I think the article that, for me, kind of is a great transition piece for thinking about this is an article by former American Educational Association, Research Association President, Gloria Ladson Billings. In '98, she wrote a piece called Just What is Critical Race Theory and What's It Doing in a Nice Field Like Education? Because educators also write about critical theories of race. Her work specifically focuses on the absence of Black and other minoritized groups' histories. In history, in K through 12. And that's something that we can think about when we think about the idea of CRT. So I'm going to stop there. If you've got more questions about it, I can answer those questions, but I just want you to get a sense of the depth and breadth of this work and also what it is, so that you have a better sense when people ask, well, that's CRT that my second grader is exposed to. You can say, no, 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 unless your second grader is taking, critical theories of race and ethnicity at the graduate level with Dr. Irizarry, I don't think that's it. So thank you.